Welcome to our closing reflection on a third and very wonderful day of reflection on memory and erasure. And I hope that your time here in the plenary space, but also at the workshops and also in our connective spaces on the breaks and at lunch and with such wonderful people has been really enriching for you. It's my honor to present our three speakers for this final closing reflection, which is From Archiving to Identity. Yasnaya Elena Aguilar Gil, member of the collective MIGE, a network of intercommunity and interdisciplinary collaboration in the MIGE region of the Sierra Norte and Isthmus of Oaxaca, Mexico. Jalnar Ahmad, program manager of the Syrian Archive, and Archie Oklos, independent artist. I'm so honored to have you with us here today. I'd like to give a trigger warning. The content of our conversation and some of the visual representations that you'll see today in artworks do present dehumanizing violence and systemic oppression. So it's just an invitation to care for yourself however you need to. Whether that means stepping out, whatever you need. And as always, those of us with the blue lanyards and other members of the organizing team, we're here to support you, whether that's during the session or after the session. Feel really free. I'd like to open our reflection by inviting each of you to share briefly about your background and work. So, Yasnaya, I'd like to start with you.
Buenas tardes. Estoy muy contenta de poder establecer esta conversación. Y bueno, yo pertenezco a un pueblo indígena en el sur de México que se llama MIGE y he trabajado sobre todo con la defensa de la lengua MIGE y los derechos lingüísticos de los pueblos indígenas y la relación entre lengua, territorio y también con las preocupaciones derivadas de esta crisis que estamos enfrentando, que es la emergencia climática, y su relación con el cuidado del territorio, las lenguas, derechos de los pueblos indígenas.
Gracias. Yasnaya. Jalnar?
Thank you for having me here. It's really an honor. Also an honor to be on the last session after all the amazing contributions we have been hearing over the last 3 days. My name is Jalnar Ahmad. I'm from Syria, originally based in Berlin. I'm the program manager of a program called Syrian Archive, which is the founding program and one program of a larger organization called Mnemonic. What we do is we document, preserve, and verify open source information related to human rights violations in the context we work on. In the case of my program, we focus on Syria. Open source material, that's meaning anything that's published online, mainly on social media, of events depicting events related to human rights violation by all parties of Syria since 2011.
Thank you. Archie.
Hello, everyone. I'm Archie Oklos, an independent visual artist from the Philippines whose work focuses on public art, engaging in site-specific areas. Some of my works are socially and politically involved in portraying people's struggles, the value of life and death, inquiries on power relations and power structures, and how it affects on the lives of people. I am in pursuit of reclaiming the narratives and authorship of our nation because it was taken away by what was written on histories of the Philippines, its people, its communities, and its nation building. Through observation and listening, we can understand someone's voice, experiences, and values. With all this in mind, how can a visual artist intersect, connect, and produce a visual output with empathy and understand humanity's complexity?
Thank you so much. So plenary conversations today have focused on the theme of memory and erasure, exploring whose story is told, whose memories are lost, and the social and political dynamics and implications of how this happens for us. as individuals, as communities, and as society. So I'd like to ask each of our speakers to share their perspective on the importance of visibilizing erased and marginalized histories, events, and language. What has happened as that visibility has emerged through your work? Yes, Naya, would you like to start?
Bueno, creo que hay una condición muy importante para construir los diálogos interculturales y la lucha por la diversidad. Creo que tiene que ver con la diversidad de historias que nos contamos. Y no solamente la diversidad de historias, o sea, las narrativas que sostienen muchos de los sistemas de opresión que explican el mundo en la actualidad. Y estas historias no solamente están codificadas en unas lenguas, sino en una multiplicidad de lenguas. Y creo que es muy importante poder poner una ecología en donde todas las historias puedan tener cabida y todas las maneras de pensar el mundo, de pensar, por ejemplo, qué es justicia, qué es paz, qué es tener una vida que es una buena vida, ¿no? Entonces creo que hay muchos aportes en tradiciones de pensamiento distintas que están poniendo en crisis ideas como desarrollo, como progreso, como crecimiento. Y muchas de estas tradiciones de pensamiento no solo están codificadas en la tradición de la filosofía, sino en otras tradiciones en donde las nociones como equilibrio, como las condiciones necesarias para tener una vida que es buena, van a recibir incluso diferentes nombres, no sé. Pienso, por ejemplo, en el Summa Causai, en el Hotkuk Ochten y en todas estas nociones que se oponen a la idea de desarrollo y que hablan, por ejemplo, de ideas como el equilibrio, que es tan importante. Entonces, yo creo que en la actualidad, con lo que sabemos que está pasando, con el levantamiento de versiones muy radicales de la derecha, va a ser muy importante oponer utopías posibles de mundos multilingües. Estamos viendo que todos los movimientos de derecha tienen como un compromiso muy fuerte con el monolingüismo, por ejemplo. Sabemos que una de las primeras acciones del presidente de Estados Unidos fue borrar la versión en español de la Casa Blanca digitalmente y hacer del inglés la lengua oficial en Estados Unidos. Entonces, las utopías o los mundos que queremos construir no pueden replicar ese monolingüismo. O sea, esas utopías que vamos a oponer tienen que ser multilingües. También no es posible pensar en guardar los conocimientos o en los archivos sin tener una perspectiva multilingüe. Porque incluso la misma manera, a mí me interesa mucho, por ejemplo, la relación entre clasificación en bibliotecas, en archivos, en centros de documentación, cómo estas clasificaciones muchas veces sabemos replican lógicas colonialistas y oscurecen la búsqueda de la información y de lo que se archiva y del conocimiento. Entonces, ¿cómo podemos pensar en otras tipologías de clasificación del conocimiento, del mundo, de especies biológicas, de plantas, que creo que pueden hacer que emerjan esas historias distintas, esos modos de ver distintos y diversos? No solo podemos hablar de diversidad o de construcción de otro mundo o de paz en una sola lengua, porque creo que eso va en contra de lo que queremos construir. Entonces, eso me parece importante. Otra cosa que también me parece muy importante en relación con los archivos es qué es lo que vale la pena preservar. Y lo que vale la pena preservar también está culturalmente determinado. Y bueno, de ahí ya sabemos quiénes lo preservan, en dónde están, que todo eso está atravesado por realidades materiales, ¿no? Pero ya el mismo hecho de que lo que llaman las gramáticas de la memoria, las relaciones que se establecen de lo que es valioso conservar y no, también van a ser muy diferentes y luego a veces hay muchos choques en eso, ¿no? Pienso, por ejemplo, en el caso de objetos sagrados que se descontextualizan para su preservación, y ahí hay tradiciones distintas de cómo se construye la memoria, lo que se archiva y lo que no debe archivarse o lo que debe olvidarse, por ejemplo. El derecho al olvido y a descartar es muy importante en la construcción de los archivos.
Sí. A mí se me ocurre que estoy aprendiendo ahora, le conté que estoy aprendiendo ahora el lenguaje náhuatl, porque perdimos el lenguaje de mi línea, de mi abuela, por lado de mi papá, que viene de Chihuahua. Y una de las cosas, porque a mí me encantan las plantas, y una de las cosas que me chocó al principio es que la clasificación de las plantas, hasta la mera palabra, está construida de otra forma, que indica que la identidad de esa planta viene, cómo crece, ¿no? Crece en agua, crece en tierra, y cómo es que crece, y luego qué florece, si es que algo florece, y así se construye la palabra. Y a mí me chocó muchísimo porque tiene mucho sentido, ¿no? Es como una forma de ver el mundo que es muy distinto a la forma que había aprendido en la escuela en los Estados Unidos, por ejemplo. Entonces me está encantando y me resuena mucho, mucho lo que está contando. Sí. Sheldar, ¿podemos pasar a ti para contestar la pregunta?
Sure, just to turn off the translation device. So before starting to respond directly to the question, I will just do a little bit like a tour in time and take us back 50, 60 years ago. I know Syria has been mentioned over the last 3 days several times, and I think many in the audience are aware of the most recent history. However, Syria has been living under an authoritarian dictatorship since 1970. So we are talking about an inherited dictatorship. We talk about Bashar al-Assad, who was finally ousted last year, but who also inherited the presidency from his father. A dictatorship that lasted for 5 decades was based on brutality, on oppression, on mass displacement, disappearance, forced disappearance, as well as mass killings. Over those years and those decades, many massacres, many crimes were committed, and a lot of them turned into just fables where people just whisper about them because no one have the evidence to talk about them, but also there is no space to discuss them. The Assad regime, as many other dictators, took one of the main aspects of the tyranny toolkit of erasing memories, of forcing a forged history. We learned in history only the history that they wanted to tell us. Majority of Syrians don't know any Syria other than Assad Syria, other than what was projected. Years later, decades later, in 2011, and also inspired by the wave of the Arab Spring, Syrians said enough, went to the street. The response to that was more killing, more disappearance, more detention centers. Hundreds of thousands were disappeared. Estimates go between 170,000 to 300,000 people missing over the last 14 years conflict. Hundreds of thousands are dead. But at the end, this is our history. And within all of this, there is these different pieces of memory, of stories, of narrative. And today, as almost a year after the toppling of the Assad regime, we are at a point, a juncture, where we are writing our history. History is not something that's just a foregone past. It's not only in history books. It's not only in tales. It is our current daily reality. Our work in the Syrian archive started in 2014 out of the recognition that there is a lot of those stories are being told through citizen journalists, through activists, through community members who were broadcasting their reality, what they were suffering from, the crimes they were subjected to, basically on social media, because that was the only way to tell the world what was happening to us in Syria at that time. There was no independent media, no access to international investigator, no access to international journalism. Accounts from activists on social media were the only way to tell and document what was actually happening day to day in the country. In 2014, when the Syrian archive was founded, it was from the recognition that a lot of this is at risk of being lost. A lot of it has been lost already. A lot of content is being deleted. We all know how fragile open source content is. Platforms change their policies. Hundreds of thousands of videos were deleted from YouTube that can have critical evidence in terms of the evidentiary value of it, as in terms of talking about accountability and justice, but also as a memory. Also, a lot of accounts were closed, whether because the activists who put them out were detained or killed or exiled or prosecuted, so they had to lose them. And then the idea came that we need to preserve this. Maybe one day we will be able to use it. At that point in 2014, we were still not seeing where things are going. No one could tell where things are going, saying, let's have a repository, let's have a safe place where this piece of our history is saved, and hopefully we can use it for justice, for accountability, but also for media, for awareness, and for memory preservation purposes. A few years later, in 2017, where it was the first case brought in front of the International Criminal Court, ICC, where a YouTube video was actually used in court as an evidence, and that presented a legal precedent where it gave another value to the work that we're doing, that it's not only preserving it for maybe one day we will use it, like, no, we can actually start to use this. So that constitutes a huge part of our work on that we don't preserve just for preservation's sake, but on how to make a use of this material. So it's used to build legal cases, to advance advocacy, accountability, and raise awareness about the situation in Syria. In parallel to the legal work, there is the work on the memory framework. Since 2018, we have been collaborating with different academic institutions, but also with artists, to use the archival material to produce whether academic literature, but also artistic productions. Like there was a production of collaboration with photographers, produced photo albums based on the archiving materials, documentaries, and we are still continuing and exploring other ideas. I put one here, and excuse me for the quality of the photo, I could not get high quality ones. This is from an idea we're exploring right now. A lot of the work on open source documentation includes verification of the videos. And we're working on investigation and attack. It was a bombing of a school that happened in this area. And part of the work is verifying the image using satellite imagery. So the first two pictures is one of the location before the attack. The other one is after the attack. The third one is an artistic reimagination of the scene, trying to bring a little bit of life in it. It's not only what we see from the sky through this very dark satellite imagery, but this is life. There was houses here, there's trees, there is life, there were people living in there. So these are some of the ideas we're looking on how we can use this archival material not only as technical tools to present it in courts as evidence, but also as something to bring back the human aspect of it. And it's about revisibilizing the human aspect because it is there. It was produced by humans. These footages are of the people who actually lived those situations. It is by their voices, and it is about bringing those voices, whether in a very technical investigation report that's added to a case file in a court somewhere, or as a product that's more accessible, as a documentary or as a photo or as a painting. And this painting actually was produced by one of our researchers team who was working on verifying the video. And she's an artist, like I need to put that in a different form to give it a little bit of life back. I think this topic of how the use of archives as a way of memory is something that does not have a clear format or a preset format. And this is something that's clearly currently from the discussions among human rights actors, among art and cultural actors within the Syrian civil society scene, on how we want to write our history now, what memory we want to shape. And there is, at least I'm not aware of someone have a clear answer to this, because these are still ongoing situations. We are still living in an evolving situation, and as I mentioned, we are now living and writing our history. That brings not only the plurality of the stories being told and plurality of the narratives, that all of them together are like threads weaving into shaping this whole picture. I think the main responsibility is to not repeat the Assad era and other dictatorship methods of going into the single story. And I remember the first session 3 days ago, in the opening session, there was a lot of discussions about, or re-mentioning of the danger of the single story. I think this is one of our responsibilities and our vision, is to contribute to the plurality of the story and plurality of the history and temporality of it, because it is not just a snapshot of a time. It's a living memory that is also a cornerstone for building our future.
Thank you, Jannah. I'm just appreciating the richness that's coming through, that when we open up the topic of archiving and memory, that there are so many things to think about, right? And it's in the how. It's in the how do we do it, what are the processes for doing it, and then what are the potential pathways that that can take to shape our current lived experience in the future. And I love the richness is already coming up, just hearing from the first two of you, and now moving to Archie.
Okay. Um, sorry. So let me share you all some of my selected works that could at least show the power of art. Art that is not just a commodity or object, but rather art that speaks for truth and build peace. Art that also starts a conversation. Art that seeks to be human again. The first image is entitled Bakwit, which means evacuees. It is a 25-story mural made by me alone for 20 days. These are the stories of our indigenous people who were displaced and being killed from their homes in the mountains for the sake of extracting and exploiting the natural resources and minerals. These are the siblings whose only hope is to have an education but cannot. Next image. The second image, Panginoong walang lupa, which means Lord with no lands, was inspired from a cross that colonized Philippines for 400 years. On that was a killed farmer, because on that specific land, the Hacienda Luisita, every rice farmer who attempts to free themselves were killed and shot and hanged on the barbed wire. Next slide. The third image, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo, the last line in our national anthem, which means I died because of you, portrays the people who were killed in the anti-war on drugs operation by our previous President Rodrigo Duterte, who is currently detained in The Hague in Netherlands. This anti-war on drugs is actually war on the poor. Each lines on this mural of a dead body covered by a white cloth represents the number of people killed, more than 20,000 people. The fourth image is about how our indigenous people were exhibited, monetized, displayed, and called savages during the World's Fair Exposition in the early 1900s. Our ancestors were forced to eat live dogs in front of the audiences. Our ancestors were treated like animals in this particular site in Luna Park, Coney Island, New York. The fifth image is our response to the work of Banksy's famous artwork entitled Girl with a Balloon, for us to be more critical and find that the work is problematic, because the silhouette image of a white girl who wear a dress and afford a balloon is already in a privileged class. This work portrays on checking our privileges. this specific image that I painted is entitled The Girl Without a Balloon. A 7-year-old girl who were tied of a rope in a bamboo and being displayed in the center of a fence during the exposition. Next. Okay. The fifth and the sixth image, the fifth and the sixth image are my works for a climate justice. As you all know, the Philippines always suffers from a super typhoon multiple times every year. And the last image was a work in response to the current typhoon we had a week ago. So before I went here in Barcelona, I was there and be a witness to a super typhoon. Houses were destroyed, like vanish. Those people on power whose job is to secure the lives of people, but only corrupts the money that could be built for a flood control project. Corruption kills. So in the with the all the works that I've shared, all the works that I've shared provides another platform on talking about displacement, killings, dark history, social injustices, and climate justice. Art is very important in this digital age, wherein art simply shows people's struggles, challenge those people in power, art that shapes and ignites people's mind and heart, art that shows how to be a human again, or what it is like to be a human.
Thank you, Archie.
Yeah.
As a panel, we decided our aspiration for Build Peace is always that this is a participatory space where we are modeling and engaging in a way that shows our pluralistic values. And so rather than invite questions, we thought we would invite community reflections. And there are 3 ways that we're inviting you to do this. So one of them is to reflect silently inside of yourself. The second is we have a remote contributors group in the WhatsApp community. So if you feel inspired, we're inviting you to post a reflection in that group. And the last way is that we'll take a couple of folks on microphone who will share their reflections. And here's the question for you. Think of an aspect of your family or community culture or history that has not appeared in official narratives. What would change if it entered into broader collective awareness? I'll read it one more time. Think of an aspect of your family or community culture or history that has not appeared in official narratives. What would change if it entered into broader collective awareness? So you're welcome to share your reflection in the remote contributor WhatsApp group, or go ahead and raise your hand if you'd like to share with the group on the mic. Yeah. One more time. Think of an aspect of your family or community culture or history that has not appeared in official narratives. What would change if it entered into broader collective awareness? So you have a microphone ready if anyone would like to share. Yeah, sure.
Thanks. I was speaking for with a professor from Valencia, and he was telling me that Valencia, their language, wasn't that their parents they didn't learn Valencia to him, because it was considered like something like for poor, not well instructed people. And me, I had the very same history with my parents. I come from the north of Italy, so our local language, the Veneto, they didn't teach me it, and actually, it seemed like a really local and again a language that people speak when they do not have a like the best instruction. And I think that if we would be able to recover it and to dignify it, we would also be more aware of our past, that is a past of also agriculture, of also being migrants, because we as Italians, we migrated a lot when we didn't have the means to survive. So maybe it could be nice to reconnect to our past and to be maybe less aware of it, to have a little bit of humility. Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
the word, humility.
Thanks. Someone else?
Um, yeah, broadly speaking, um, there is a part of the suffering that the Spaniards. Well, I come from Manresa. It's a little town next to here in Barcelona, and our family history has been tainted with a conflict that has not happened in such recent years, such as, for example, the Syrian conflict. But it happened 80 years ago, and its scars can be felt today as well. In the plenary this morning, we talked about how there is still a fascist monument erected in the doorstep of Madrid, and how one side of the conflict has been completely silenced and repressed and censored, and the other has enjoyed a privilege, a legitimization that has endured for too long. And I do believe that there is a lot of that suffering that affects us personally today, that's it's still taken for granted. And I don't know what would change. The question was what would change, and I was thinking what would change towards in a broader level. But on a personal level, if it were more recognized and we got rid of this pacto del olvido, and we actually thought about remembering and recognizing those who died under repression, it would lead to more dignity, to dignify the dead. And this is something that doesn't happen when the losers are just quieted and silenced. Dignify the dead.
Thank you. I think I'd like to come back to our speakers now, and also just appreciating the folks who are posting reflections in the chat. We look forward to reading those together later. So I have a second question that's related to power. So often, as many people in the room, often our work at Build Up, we've had to confront the ways in which efforts to broaden participation, promote plurality, and reshape decision-making processes, not just to be representative of, but really be driven by the people, meet resistance by the systems and people in power. So my questions to all three of you are, what risks and challenges have you faced? And what contributes to your resilience and your ability to sustain this work? Yes, Naya, ¿quieres ir primero?
¿Alguien más?
No, dale, dale.
Bueno,
Como quieras.
Sobre el poder, que quisiera retomar un poco primero
Sí.
antes de contestar tu pregunta. Yo vengo de un contexto en el que durante 500 años se ha ido configurando una estructura sociopolítica que es distinta del modelo Estado-Nación. Que un antropólogo mije, o sea, de mi pueblo, y otro zapoteco, bautizaron como comunalidad, que es un sistema sociopolítico asambleario en donde se basa en 4 principios. Uno es la comunalidad de la tierra, es decir, la tierra está en propiedad comunal. De hecho, la provincia donde yo vengo, el 80% de la tierra está en propiedad colectiva y el 20% en propiedad privada. Entonces, la propiedad privada es muy pequeña. Luego, también en la comunalidad del trabajo. Todas las personas en este sistema trabajamos para cumplir ciertos deseos o resolver problemas colectivamente. La otra es la colectividad del gobierno. Todas las personas en algún momento que vivimos en esas estructuras vamos a estar involucrados en el gobierno local. Y por otro lado está la comunalidad de la fiesta. La fiesta es un momento muy importante dentro de estas estructuras sociopolíticas. Esas estructuras sociopolíticas nos proveyeron de resistencia y de resiliencia, si así lo queremos llamar en español, que nos permitieron poder llegar hasta el siglo XXI, resistiendo a todas las consecuencias de la colonización y de la construcción de los estados-nación, sobre todo en nuestro caso del Estado-nación mexicano. Y bueno, eso siempre ha estado en tensión con el modelo de las democracias liberales que sostiene la idea del Estado. Y bueno, en el caso de los estados-nación hay una búsqueda activa del poder. Hay partidos políticos que están buscando el poder activamente. Justamente un amigo nuestro hablaba de cómo hay una tensión ahí, porque en estos sistemas sociopolíticos está en el poder quienes desean estar en el poder. Entonces, con eso de fondo, por el contrario, en esas estructuras comunales y en mi lengua, por ejemplo, a las autoridades, o sea, quienes están en el gobierno, se les llama kudung, que significa literalmente personas con mucho trabajo, o alguien que tiene abundancia de trabajo. Y también se les llama padres, madres de la comunidad, independientemente de su género. Y la lógica de ese servicio no está instalada en la lógica del poder, sino en la lógica del servicio. Entonces, cuando hay nombramientos, la gente tiene que decir por qué no debe ser elegida, que es lo contrario a una campaña política. En una campaña política te tienen que convencer por qué tienes que elegir a alguien. Y aquí tienes que pasar y decir a la asamblea por qué tú no eres el adecuado para dirigir la comunidad. Porque la lógica de esa estructura sociopolítica está inscrita en la lógica de los cuidados. Hay que cuidar la comunidad, por eso son padres y madres. Hay que cuidar las fuentes de agua, hay que cuidar los edificios públicos, hay que cuidar la fiesta. Entonces, todo el tiempo en nuestra lengua se está hablando de las labores de cuidado que van a hacer las autoridades para con el territorio, la comunidad. Mientras que en la lógica de los estados y la de los partidos políticos, lo que hay es una lógica de la búsqueda activa del poder, vota por mí, y además está muy inscrita en la historia del héroe, el arquetipo del héroe de la tradición occidental, el héroe que, no sé, sobre todo en la lucha de las izquierdas, ¿no? Alguien que no quería, pero luego va a luchar y después de mucho luchar, por fin lo va a lograr y va a tomar el poder. Y mientras en esa lucha que es bastante masculina además, ¿no? Siempre es muy varonil el arquetipo del camino del héroe, se contrapone a las labores de la autoridad y el gobierno como un ejercicio de cuidado a estructuras sociopolíticas del ejercicio del poder. Claro, la gran diferencia es que el poder tiene muy buena prensa, pero los cuidados no, porque históricamente los cuidados han recaído en las mujeres y a veces desde una tradición feminista más occidental se ve que las mujeres debemos abandonar las labores de cuidado en lugar de colectivizar más las labores de cuidado y empoderarse. Entonces, hay una tensión ahí y por lo menos desde de estos movimientos y reflexiones, lo que tiene que ver con el poder, como que se ve de una manera mucho más sospechosa, porque el poder siempre está fraseado con las estructuras del Estado. Y creo que, dado como está el actual contexto del mundo, hay que desempoderar a ciertas personas. Y más bien crear estructuras de cuidado colectivo en donde sea posible la resiliencia. La población mije, calculada antes de la colonización, perdió muchísima gente, como entre 8 y 9 de cada 10 personas. Es mucho el descenso de población, que solo se empezó a recuperar hasta 1970 del siglo XX. Entonces, el efecto de la colonización fue muy fuerte y en ciertas circunstancias históricas parecía, lo más lógico era que el pueblo mije desapareciera por muchas cosas terribles que pasaron y porque muchos pueblos indígenas desaparecieron completamente, como los conchos o los pericús, por ejemplo, en México, ¿no? Solo por poner un ejemplo. ¿Qué fue lo que nos trajo hasta el siglo XXI? Que podamos seguir existiendo, apostando a la vida y tratando de poner en estas narrativas grandes ideas que pongan en crisis la noción de desarrollo y crecimiento económico al infinito. Una de esas es la noción de equilibrio. Pues estas estructuras de cuidado, o sea, las estructuras de gobierno relacionadas con el cuidado y lejos de la lógica de la centralización del poder que tienen los estados-nación en su arquitectura.
Gracias, Naya. Archie, would you like to go? Archie, would you like to go next?
Okay, so since it's literally about risk, I actually experienced the risk of making this type of art. Since I came from the family of farmers, uh, I am also a farmer myself when I was a kid. And doing this kind of work, uh, it is for me to be of service for the community and the people. Um, I was considered enemy of the state in the Philippines. Uh, I've been in the red tag list for 3 years, and I really don't know how I survived. I just I just hop on different regions in the Philippines, trying to trying to hide houses to houses, literally. And I experienced the military harassment just by doing this kind of art. Like these military men in our country, like twist my neck, and I don't know. I just ran. I just ran for my life. Um, in the Philippines, being involved in exposing truth and realities that's been happening in the far-flung areas in the Philippines can be considered as you are a rebel, but in reality, we are not. We are not the rebels. Those people in power are the real terrorists. Um, I don't know. Actually, I don't know how I survive. I just try to. It's not the word resilient. Being a survivor actually magnifies more. Uh, had the courage to do this kind of work and continue this kind of work till the end of my life. Not being an anonymous artist, but exposing my name out there. Because I do believe that the work is more important than the artist's name. Uh, if there is the art market, I'm in the outside of it, just trying to navigating. Um, I think uh, word of mouth practice in our country, like uh, being respected by different communities, by the elders, they're the ones who protect me. And I really have a lot of tattoos here. Like, I, sorry, but I have a lot of tattoos that I earned from the communities because in this type of work, um, I always live in danger. It is not easy. It is not easy. It is not also easy for me to be exposed here in the, but yep, I need to talk about this kind of things. So, thank you all for allowing me to share my pieces. And I think um, being in a collective or having this kind of support makes me, you know, continue this kind of art practice. Not for monetary value, because all the works that I've shown to you, that's all free. I've done it free. It is self-funded. I don't owe anyone else. If you've seen the first image, the 25-story mural, my God, I don't know how I did it, but hanging on the wall that high, it's very risky. Uh, It's very risky because the only thing that you and the wall is only a rope and a paintbrush. And I really don't know why I am continuing this kind of work. I really don't know. But, you know, uh, I don't know what happened to the art world. Because, for example, a lot of artists being popularized, being millionaires and billionaires from their art. Like, you know who I'm talking to. Um, it is very important for us artists to continue this kind of work. Because who will work if not you, right? So I guess I don't know. Actually, I really don't know. I can't give any direct answer on how I survive these kind of things. I think I'm a survivor all the way. And yeah, I just continue. If you happen, guys, to support me or invite me to any part of the world, just let me know. I'll do my best. I'll try to go there and work with the communities, be sincere enough to working with you guys. So that's it. I'm really, really thankful for you guys here in the land of where we Filipinos were colonized with the Spaniards for 400 years. Your country is beautiful. I really don't know why you guys colonized us. But peace to all. But peace to all. We learn from our history, right? We learn from our history, and we will continue learning. So that's it. My deepest gratitude of appreciating you all.
I'm having that uncomfortable feeling inside of funny, not funny.
Yeah.
You know? So, Archie, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Chandler, we'll close with you.
So yeah, risk challenges. There is I think a long list to go through. But I will go back to a discussion that happened yesterday in one of the workshops. I think few people here have been in that workshop. It was also about archiving and open source, and the discussion focused a lot on the topic of safety, how we consider and ensure safety when we are dealing with sometimes a very technical, intangible photos, like the screenshots I shared before from geolocation satellite imagery. At the same time, where there's people behind those, how can I ensure that the person who most of the cases don't know the person who uploaded the video. A lot of times I don't even have contact to it, even if I try, I cannot reach them. So the question of safety is one of the main challenges that we keep revolving around and putting on the table and struggling with and combating with on a daily life. It's first the safety of the people working with the material, the team looking at all of this and how to put care at the center, as just has been said. But also the safety of the people who created this content and the safety of the people, or sometimes not only the human people, but also the object depicted in those content. And this is one of the main challenges when dealing with this question. How can we always make sure that we are not doing any harm when we are trying to preserve a specific content or use that specific content, even if it is for justice or for accountability, for something we believe in, for human rights. At the same time, measuring is that having an adverse effect at one point. And grappling with that question on a daily basis, I think it is one of the main challenges and one of the main risks as well. But at the same time, I think it goes to the second part of the question when we are looking about what gives us the resilience and the sustainability. Is a recognition that we need to grapple with these difficult questions, that there is no easy answer for that, and that having this challenge does not mean that we need to let go and drop this work and go. And that I connect again go back to the point of the power and challenging the power, because I think in the work we are doing, part of it is about challenging the power of the single narrative, the power of authorities, figures or factions or groups in power that are trying to enforce a single narrative. And by challenging that and by trying to emphasize and put the content creators in their diversity at the center is a kind of challenging this kind of power dynamics that no one can decide to tell which story to tell as long as these people were telling their own stories. It is also challenging the power forced by, for example, the platforms themselves. We are preserving videos that at one point Meta or Google would decide that no, this should not be available and no one should see it. But why do they have to decide? This is also challenging the power of the content moderation policies that come from a very completely different perspective. It comes from a business-driven monitoring perspective, not from why that content is there. And a lot of times it might not align with the reasons why the creators originally created that content. Challenging these power dynamics on a daily basis is in itself a challenge, but also aspiring for putting care at center, for looking on how we can achieve solidarity when we are not in direct contact with the people. When we are, our team is basically spread all over the world. We spend most of our day behind laptop screens. It's not the human interaction. We don't work on the community level. That's the nature of our technical work and the use of these technological questions. But the question of solidarity is always at the center of how we design our policies, how we go about our work, how we decide on what are we publishing and what are we not republishing. Even if it is we deal with open source, so something that has been and is in the public sphere, but that does not mean that we republish it. It is a question that we ask ourselves every time we're dealing with the material. Do we want more people to actually see this or not? Sometimes it is about us making the choice. We are taking the power in this decision here. But this is not, we are one of these decision makers on what to republish or not to republish. But then this material is available. It is being widely circulated. One last point I will touch on in terms of the risks and challenges, because it has been coming up a lot in discussions over the last couple of days, which is the proliferation of hate speech and misinformation and disinformation online. As we are working on Contact, in a way to use it to provide evidence of violations of human rights, violations of basic principles and human rights, and then, but this, we are at every time bombarded with massive, sheer amount of content that needs extra levels of verification, and this is a challenge that is, we are witnessing how it is also increasing by the day, but because of the amount of verification needed to counter this threat, because now not any content that we can always go and say, oh, okay, someone posted this is a real story. Now we have to do double check and triple check and do it fourth and first time at the same time. So I think, yeah, at the end, the challenges, the risks are at the same time putting them at the table and discussing them and not shying away or fearing away from them is the way to look into the solidarity as a mean for sustainability and resilience, in a way to say that, yes, we are doing this, and we will continue to do this despite all of these challenges and risks.
Thank you, Jana. Yeah. I don't think I could do justice to the richness of the conversation and the perspectives. I feel like you've just opened the world, my understanding of what the significance of your work is and this type of work for our societies, the importance of it, and actually how critical it is as it relates to the main challenges that we face globally and at the community level. And it also sparked imagination that there are communities and cultures that are offer different pathways for coexistence that we really so much need, and that we can also face these challenges with so much bravery and courage and also solidarity. And so I just really want to honor and thank you for being here and for sharing your experiences and truths from your communities and your work. And I wish you safety, and I wish you great impact. And I hope also that in our Build Peace community, we can cultivate a space in which the kind of work that is so needed, like the work we've heard this afternoon, is something that we really nurture together as a community and can support each other on. So a request for everyone in the room, as a follow-up to this, as a homework, you could say, is to please think about your own positionality and to think about the ways in which you can be a participant in the visibilization, the pluralization, the protection, the care, and the solidarity for this work that will allow us to move out of our current paradigm and into what we can hope for as a truly positive peace, and one in which the needs of all our communities, all our neighbors, and especially those who've been marginalized and oppressed, can be respected, dignified, and cared for. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.